I wonder about this because my ex-wife had this issue when I came to her and I said to her, I know something is wrong with me as far as emotionally, that I could tell that my mental attitude and my well-being had shifted at one point before it actually really broke. And trying to articulate to that to her and try to say, hey, I understand that something is wrong here, and I understand that I really need to go do something about this. you know do you find that with the significant others of people who come to talk to you about depression and mental health and things like that, that sometimes you kind of have to educate them on what their significant other is going through, on what that person is going through? Because culturally, like you said, we are so ingrained, and it's generational, and it's not gender specific, but it's the American way. We don't just go around the wall. We don't find a way to give. The American way is to just put your head down and go right through it, and damn the consequences. And
Yeah.
I think in the last 30 years, we've still not gotten very far in understanding that that way doesn't work for a lot of people. Because, and as you mentioned, you can get frustrated, you can find yourself in a bad situation, but when it keeps happening over and over and over and over again, and you and I, in a slightly unrelated tangent, you and I have studied martial arts for a long time, and we understand the mindset of when you go up against an opponent, they're either going to beat you or you're going to beat them. And you can get, and I studied boxing for a long time, and you can get knocked down and you can get back up, and you can keep doing that over and over and over again. But you inevitably reach a point where either your mind or your body go, we're not getting up again. And there's no amount of positive self-talk you can give it. There's no amount of motivation you can give it. There's nothing anybody can tell you at that point of that's going to get you to get back up. You are done. And
Right.
you have to accept the fact that for until you can recuperate enough, you're not getting up. But we keep telling ourselves, no, you got to keep doing it. The whole bootstrap mentality of, well, things are bad, we'll just pick them up and keep on going. And I worry a lot that we are, for as much as we've come to understand about mental health and depression and anxiety and PTSD and all that stuff, that as a whole, we're still not fully grasping the idea that what came before doesn't work. And we need to
Mhm.
change our mindset as a country and a society if we
Yeah.
really want people to start getting better. Are you seeing any of that too?
Yeah. You're right, Devin. And you know, that's why I'm glad you're doing this podcast. Um, I mean, men have to talk about it more. They have to tell their stories of what they've been through. So many people are just kind of suffering in silence or going through just terrible, and you've got your story. Um, it's just miserable. And like Twitter, like it's just awful. Like the shaming and just the cruelty, just frankly cruelty. Like there's people there, there's just no empathy, right?
No.
Um, and people say the worst things. Um, it's like reaching and getting through to people one at a time is great, but like culturally, we got to do better. Um, and yeah, there's more awareness of CTE and like head injuries, and mental health and mental illness in combat sports and other basketball. Like several NBA players are sharing their stories about their struggles with anxiety and depression. So I think just raising awareness and trying to reduce the stigma. But we have to start with ourselves, right? Like we have to deal with our own the ways that we shame ourselves or buy into those old messages, and learn how to practice self-compassion for and understanding for ourselves, and do that for others, and hopefully that, like, so on one hand, like we have so far to go, but I'm, uh, reducing mental health stigma. The people are out there fighting for it. There's great organizations um, that are raising the awareness and kind of spreading that message. And yeah, the it it's it's hard to go through mental illness alone, and having people that understand is so key. And so you said earlier about partners or people in relationship with people who are struggling with anxiety or depression. NAMI is a great organization, NAMI.org.
Hmm.
They do peer education groups. So families that have gone through a member of their family uh, struggling with mental illness, they do groups, and they're doing them online now. You can just learning more about what it's like to live with someone who has anxiety or depression. Living with someone who has uh, uh, degenerative disease like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, learning how to live with someone who has ADD and ADHD. Like that's tough. Support and understanding for being in relationship with someone who is on the autism spectrum. There's lots of good support and resources for family and partners. Um, Sometimes when I'm in therapy with folks, their family or partner will visit and join us for sessions. I wish it happened more,
Hmm.
but sometimes that happens. And uh, and what that looks like is, when I work with one-on-one with someone, I'm working with how they're getting through life and their daily responsibilities and their day to day. But when their family member or loved one visits, we explore like how is anxiety, their mental health struggle, how is that impacting their relationship, and um, coming up and everybody's comes up with a different recipe for what works for them.
Right. And that's the other thing is that we tend to think that and we think about this with a lot of things with Western medicine that oh, well, just take this pill or just do this thing, or it's a one size fits all remedy, that a panacea can come in that way and it will just solve everybody's problem. But everybody's different, everybody's experiences are different. Everything that fuels what eventually leads them to being in a state of mental illness is different. There is no singular way to go through it.
Right.
CBT was working for me. That doesn't mean it's going to work for the next person that walks into my therapist office. One of the reservations I had when I first started was I had gone to doctors who simply just said, here, gave me a bottle of antidepressants and said, come back in a month and tell me how you feel. Well, I understood that while antidepressants do help, and they do help in the physiological sense, they're not a panacea. You just don't keep taking them and that's it. You still have to get to the underlying issues that are causing your mindset to be what it is. So, it was refreshing with the therapist I had, that she was like, okay, well, then let's actually try something. Let's try actual therapy and see how that works. And if that works, we'll keep going. And if not, then maybe we'll start incorporating medication into it. You have to find that balance and you have to find what works for you.
Yeah.
And, so many people just think, okay, well, I don't want to go sit in a therapist's office and talk about my childhood for an hour, or I don't want to have to sit there and take pills, because if I take them and somebody sees them, then I'm going to get judged for the fact that I have to take them when I can't just suck it up, and the thing I'm also wondering about is, as far as the medical infrastructure in this country,
Mhm.
I had people who for a long time looked at me and they were like, well, Dad, just go to a therapist, go see somebody. You have a job, go see somebody. The person I was able to go see last year was the first time in my full adult life,
Mhm.
which now spans 25 years, that I could have gone and seen somebody that I could afford to go see on a regular basis, because my insurance was such that they covered enough of it that I wasn't paying so exorbitantly out of pocket that it was impacting my ability to take care of myself otherwise. And
Yes.
I don't think enough people understand that side either. That I think if we really, really want to tackle the problem, we need to tackle it systemically as well and make it so those options are available to more people because a lot of people can't wait 25 years to go see somebody, and that's a lot of time to accrue a lot of damage.
Yes. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Like counseling therapy, it's expensive. Um, and it's tough. Like it's great when you have insurance, right? Uh, but even like there can be hassles and inconvenience and a struggle when with insurance too. And so I, you know, I I I I'd have a lot. I'd get paid a lot more if I could like solve the mental health access issue in our country,
Right.
Devin. Um, so but like awareness and prevention, like it is so important. Like incorporating more emotional intelligence, mental health, mindfulness, uh, training, healthy communication, um, earlier in people's lives. With kids growing up. Um, the thing is, like, oh, we're going to apply a solution when the problem shows itself. Our kids are getting hammered with mental health
Yeah.
problems. Like, these are not skills to learn like when you're in high school and you're about to go off to college so you can like be a healthy, emotionally healthy, independent adult. Like kindergartners need this training. It needs to be a part of the curriculum. But again, like not enough time in the day to teach everything that kids need to learn.
Right. Right.
But it's so hard to learn
Hmm.
when your brain is overwhelmed with anxiety. The anxiety and depression, it affects learning, it affects memory, it affects our sleep. And you know the 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 vastness, how big a problem this is, can be intimidating and overwhelming. Um, but hopefully, when things improve, the it impacts the other things too.
Right.
And so that's what we have to fight for.
Hey guys, Devin here. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and check out the links below for more great original content. Talk to you soon. Bye.